Ladies, welcome to this video. Coach Jerry here. Welcome again, and hopefully you have an amazing Friday going into the weekend. This weekend is Christmas, and obviously it's one of those years that it falls either on a Saturday or on a Sunday. So for most people, it doesn't really break up the week, but in fact, it is basically coming inside the weekend. Now, I wanted to offer you today, the fourth session of the holiday not avoid gaining weight on the holiday challenge, if you want to call it this way. And obviously, I feel like this is definitely the last training before Christmas, but also is the last training, and that I think that gives you all the tools that you need for you to be able to successfully do this challenge, and also for you to be able to avoid gaining weight and possibly even losing weight into the holiday this year, doing something substantially different than you might have done in the past. Okay. So obviously, I also want to give you a little bit of my personal view of the holiday and Christmas, and why for me right now it's not really a different day than you're that many times for many people. Christmas is another day like any other people. In fact, for some other people, instead, Christmas is something really important. I'm watching down right now, just making sure it's going nice, that it's going. And obviously, it's important for you to be able to take the holiday as it is for you, meaning like if you are one of these person that you have the whole culture thing, like whether you celebrate Christmas before or after, and you celebrate New Year's different date than some other people. You want to be taking the holidays as really time for relaxing, and time from starting from scratch, time like we coming into the New Year's, time to really do something different and start strong this New Year's. But again, when it comes to the holidays, what are the holidays? How you supposed to take the holiday? Holiday is supposed to be a time that you actually cherish that time with your family. Despite you, celebrating or eating more, or doing some sort of a cultural thing. When it comes to the holiday, really take this time to celebrate. Stay close to your friend. Do not feel like, again, definitely not this challenge, but in general, like, do not feel like there is a obsessive relationship with food, or you avoiding thing or limiting yourself. Like, at the end of the day, it's all about celebrating. Why holiday? It's not special to me anymore. And honestly, it is because I remember, a long time ago, when we had still, both of my grandparents were alive, and like we used to celebrate in their house, hugely 20, 30 people, between cousins and everybody. And again, it's like at the time, like we used to have to, like, much like I saw in the past in the United States in Thanksgiving, this all preparation, this all stress about, preparing all this food, and then like having to hit more, and like, and it's basically all hype, because at the end of the day, at least for me, everybody, once you understand, when you are a kid and you understand no longer, Santa existence, like there is no Santa at the end, like you don't really feel like so excited about Christmas anymore. And when it's not for the kids, I mean, what is really exciting about? It's really like a day that you get to do something different, maybe, but nothing special really. And the end is like, it's mostly adding stress. At least for me, it was adding a lot of stress into having to cook and having to do all that. And again, there is no real history behind, me having to celebrate that day different than any other day. And therefore, for me, it wasn't special. It was special in the beginning, but then it was like, okay, it's a day after another day. And this year specifically, as we saw, a lot of things changes inside the world. And like, in Europe, I don't know where you're watching from, but in Europe, there is all this idea that there is this energy problems or whatever. Like my mom, that usually does cookies, and she does 45 different quality of cookies. She decided not to do it this year because of, try to, conserve some energy, try not to, obviously it's also a matter of, if you want to call this, but even financial, it's like, why she had to spend more into just doing cookies at the end, giving away to other people. And she said she did, okay, I'm gonna, not do it this year, whether it's for, again, ethical reasons or whatever the case was. And for me, I took it as like, a lot of my cousins is like, oh, I was waiting for your cookies and everything. And for me, I was like, I take that opportunity to really go towards my goal. My goal, like I really, myself too, I want to start on a transformation right now. And I'm like, I'm gonna take this as an opportunity. Like usually I have to eat the cookies because otherwise I'm gonna make her feel bad. I mean, and I always have to like factor it into my calorie, whatever the case is. This year I'm gonna do something different. Since it's not there, I'm not even gonna have a Christmas dinner. I'm gonna go to give everybody, the best wishes, the holiday wishes and everything. I'm gonna maybe join for some snacks, but I'm like, I'm really gonna do something different. This is not special to me, right? Again, if it was something that everybody has to sit down and do all this dinner and lunch all together, like I'm like, I don't know, I keep myself for New Year's. I like New Year's, and again, I always want to erase. I don't want to say erase, but start fresh, maybe add to whatever goal that I have. So I'm really gonna keep my, if you want to call it that way, my efforts for my New Year's. And this Christmas, I'm gonna take it like, the how do you say, like, I'm gonna take that opportunity to be able to be thankful and say, oh, I really learned a lot this Christmas. This year was much better for me than it was 2021. I did share that, and therefore I'm gonna use this as a time of my life that I'm finally back home in Europe. I get to do things with my friends. I get to do something different, but not really crazy to having to use that much like other people do when it comes to eating, right? With this being said, it doesn't have to be like that for you. Like, I really wish that you can use that time to really celebrate how you see best for your own persona, for your own situation. And it's important because it's going to be time then that you're going to eat, right? And we did say in the first couple of sessions, even if you did your, we'll call it worse, and use a lot of calorie and eat a lot, you still could do a lot of things to undo, if you want to call it this way, all this effort, all these calories that you're putting in, right? And the past two trainings, we talked about like how to be able to really understand, kind of come in with the right mind frame to understand all the numbers, to make sure that you don't do, to control kind of like what you're doing. And yesterday we talked about how to eat. Today we're going to talk about how to work out, but I want to take this as a contextual video, meaning like not really what specific workout you should do, but contextual towards a lady that is around between 30 and 40 years old or more, and is here because she needs to lose weight. She's in a weight plateau, and she has an hard time losing weight. And again, when we factor together the aging process, when we factor together the fact that you've been maybe dieting for a while, and we take this together, and when it comes to workout, and again, heading that to the fact that you're going to eat more in the holiday, they're usually a very similar component to the workout and the movement. Because again, it's not necessarily super directive and personalized, but it's usually is that if you're not achieving the results you need in the moment, it is because probably you're doing either too much, we talked that on a metabolism video, or you're doing too little, yet you think you're doing a lot, okay? Usually it's like that. You're doing too much means that you're doing a lot of cardio, a lot of intense interval training cardio, a lot of stuff, activity, could be sports such as some sort of skiing or ice skating or other sports, or very, very intense cardio, running like that. And combine that with could be something more than 12, 15, 20,000 steps a day. If you're doing that and you're not seeing results, chances are it's too much. And we talked about how the body reacts and metabolism reacts, is that is like a thermostat. So if there is a temperature, and like the thermostat goes on, try to get accustomed to that temperature. If the temperature is like this, and they're like, it's way too much of a difference, your body won't sense the difference, yet it won't give you the results you want. So basically, it holds on everything, which is water retention. It raises our cortisol. It holds on all the stuff. It holds on all the fat that you have accumulated, and it doesn't allow you to do that. So if you are doing too much, right, too much frequency, too intensity, too much workout, is the time that you want to take that holiday time. And since you're going to have to relax, just lower down the intensity. If you're doing too little and you say, oh, I just work out once in a while, I go to walk every day, but it turns out that you don't even do 1,000 or 2,000 steps a day, chances are you're doing too little. You're thinking that you're doing a lot, but you're doing too little. And the first step is probably raise that up. And I would do that throughout the holidays, since that you're going to have to also eat more. Now, the mentality I want you to give you when it comes to workout and exercise is that you should not pair that to the amount that you're eating. You know that you're going to eat, so therefore you need to actually somehow burn or use those calories. but not to the extent to say that if you're a woman that you already have in a plateau because you're doing too much and you're doing 15,000 steps, you're eating more this holiday and you have to do 30,000 steps. No, you go down in between 5 to 10,000 steps. For the most part, that's enough, okay? You know, unless it's case dependent, unless we're actually talking, me and you, and I'm telling you something different. This is most of the time what you're gonna need. The importance part, and this I wanna make this almost like, you know, you wanna probably consider this in 2023. The workout that is really important, okay? And again, if you're doing too little, probably do a little bit more. If you're doing too much, probably cut back a little bit. The context you need to understand. Moving forward, this is not enough you do that in the holiday. This is contextual. This is like moving on to 2023. If you are a woman, again, inside a weight plateau or metabolism down regulation, in other words, if your body no longer gives you the results, chances are, contextual wise, you want to be, for that purpose, one more time, not for getting a better heart, but for that purpose, you want to really cut out or diminish your cardio, okay? So make that less or less intense, less frequent. The thing that you need to understand, again, a movement, anywhere between 5 to 10, sometimes 12,000 steps is going to do. But this is important. I said it multiple times. Weight training, weight resistant training in the gym or in the house. You need to get weight. And again, it's not CrossFit. It's not body tone on all these classes that includes weight and cardio. It's weights. It's weights like, you know, I'm going to do my 10, 20 repetition. I'm going to rest. I'm going to do more. It's basically about getting that skill to be making you more tone when it comes to your muscle and more reactive when it comes to the calorie you're inducing. It's also going to allow you to have a very functioning metabolism and be able to process starches better, which are the building blocks of the thyroid. And if your thyroid is okay, if your cortisol is okay, all the other hormones fall into place. And most of the time is going to give you a better look when it comes to the mirror, okay? That might also mean that you might stay, obviously, if you are pretty lean and you have to only lose 2, 3, 5 kilos, chances are your weight is not going to change that much because you're going to probably maybe be more hydrated, you're going to have better muscle, you're going to have better muscle tone, and the muscle tend to weigh more than the fat, right? If you have to lose 10 to 20 kilo, you're still gonna lose. You're gonna see a weight loss. In fact, it's gonna make that much faster and much better. Important. This is contextual, but you do need to understand that it's not about just going to the gym and just scratching off the box. And I'm doing that. No, it's about getting better. It's about getting stronger. It's about making you enjoy that. And again, like usually you tend to enjoy what you're good at, and therefore you might not enjoy it at the moment because you don't necessarily, you don't feel like you are good at it. But it is like, if you want to do something new in 2023, and if anything that you would have to choose, it would be resistance training. Whether you buy a set of weights or TRX and do that in the house, or you go into the gym, it's about creating a program on that. And again, if you are working with me directly, you know already, like I can pretty much customize exercise and workouts according to your body type and your hormonal profile. Yet weight is a component. I keep seeing this over and over again. And again, the most important is adherence, meaning like you actually need to be able to do something. Therefore, like if you something you hate, you wouldn't do it. But I keep seeing that all the time. And this is why I allow flexibility inside my programs. Ladies that are working out inside the gym or with weights have like easily 30-40% better results than others. Okay, so you want to really drive that point home, and you always have to ask yourself, are my results more important, or is my if you want to call it happiness or enjoyment, that's the word, enjoyment for me to do whatever I want is important. If the enjoyment is more important, chances are you are really not committed 100% to the results. If the results is more important, it's mandatory that you really start shifting some of your beliefs and kind of like things that you do, because this is going to provide you a lot quicker, a lot easier, and a lot better results. With this being said, I hope this is makes sense. You have all the tools now to make this work. Comment down below if you have any question. You can put any question. I'm going to type back at you personally, like related to whatever workouts. If you have any question about anything, I'm going to try to direct you to a best of my ability to whatever resource you have. If you are working with me, do you have the resource? If you are not yet working with me, I still gonna give you some perspective views on what you should be doing inside the holiday. Jerry here. I wish you all an amazing Christmas, and we're gonna talk soon next week as we move into the next part of the challenge.